All right, welcome. Thank you for those of you who are here now, and if you're tuning in later, thank you for your interest and for tuning in later. I love seeing your faces, so if anyone, I know it's very late for some of you, but if anyone would like to come on camera so I can see you, you won't be in the recording. This is the second time that I'm doing the State of the Holistic Self-Defense Revolution update. We are now about 9 months into operating sort of more seriously as a team, and also 9 months into our fundraising efforts. I want to just start by saying a huge and deep thank you to everyone who has supported this project as a donor, as an ally, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a cheerleader. We have come so much farther, and we've been able to grow so much bigger thanks to your support, and I really appreciate you. I also want to mention that I titled this presentation Lessons from Failure, and I had a few people write back and meaning to be encouraging, saying, well, you didn't fail, you've done so much. And we know that we've accomplished so much in the last 6 months and in the last year. And I want to sort of challenge the stigma that failure is something necessarily negative. Anyone who works in any creative field, anyone who's an entrepreneur knows that failure is just part of the creative process. And objectively speaking, like if you look at our theory of change, we definitely have not accomplished what I, in this presentation 6 months ago, was sort of projecting that we would accomplish. So our theory of change was we would raise funds to pay for a team to grow as a business. Simultaneously, we would be growing our capacity in terms of training up our instructors and getting them fully certified, and that we would generate a lot more business and a lot more clients to keep those instructors employed, and we would eventually be able to sustain ourselves as a business through that outcome. I'm going to go through what the actual outcome has been in a moment, but I just want to backtrack. I know everyone here knows, but for anyone tuning in later, just in case you don't know the backstory to Mujeres Fuertes, we started out a lot less organized than we've become. This is like a very good example of jumping off the cliff and developing your wings on the way down. So this was, in a sense, a pandemic project. It started a long time before the pandemic, but the name and the brand and sort of the community and movement that grew around it really kicked off during the pandemic, because I had a lot more time, the other people involved in the project had a lot more time, and we did a lot in those 2 years. However, I think there's like a challenge inherent in figuring things out as you go along, or building the ship as you're sailing. I don't know if that metaphor really exists, because you don't necessarily set up the structures initially that you need to be successful down the road, and you don't necessarily grow in the direction of the foundations that you've built. And looking at this sort of from a bird's eye view, I think that's one of the things that's been happening with this project. And these last 9 months have just been like a series of challenges and obstacles in terms of meeting the goals that I originally set for the organization when I started fundraising. And because all of you here and all of you who will be watching later are really the stakeholders in this organization as donors, as community members, as members of the team, I want to be accountable to you and having this conversation in a really open and transparent way, knowing that this is the beginning of a conversation that we're going to continue to have for the next several months and probably forever. We've been very busy. We have not been idle in this first half of 2024. We've been trying a lot of things and sort of seeing what sticks. And this is not a comprehensive list, but we tried out monthly online workshops led by our new instructors and also our older instructors. We've had a series of community workshops open to the general public at farmers markets, at different festivals and gatherings, other community spaces. These are usually low cost or no cost. We've done a lot of outreach. That was a big part of sort of my original plan for growing the organization is we would reach out to all of these schools, government institutions, community organizations, nonprofits, corporations, and that we would generate sort of more business through that outreach. We've sent thousands of emails. We've probably that many times over follow-up. Hasn't had quite the results that we expected. We've also been running awareness campaigns, trying out some paid marketing. We've worked a lot on developing our internal systems and standard operating procedures to sort of work more fluidly as a team and as an organization. So we've been working on the back end structure as well. And we've, I think this was already the case the last time I checked in with you all, but our documentary was distributed on 2 national television channels. It was distributed again earlier this year. We just actually won 2 awards from 2, we were just accepted into 2 festivals this week, we found out, so we're celebrating that as well. And we've experienced a lot of challenges in what we've tried in terms of participation, in terms of getting people to show up, in terms of getting that outreach to actually convert into new partners and new clients. And the question that I'm really interested in exploring for myself and with our team and with our community is what are the lessons we can take away from this, rather than just like beating against a wall that doesn't want to move? How can we learn from what isn't working and what is working and sort of redirect our energy and our focus so that we're not like wasting time on a path that isn't actually where we're meant to go? So this is my sort of analysis of what some of the challenges are. And then after, this is going to be a pretty quick presentation because then I really want to hear from you and I want to open this up to conversation and get your feedback and your insights. We're also going to hear from our team and hear some of their insights. But these are sort of like when I really reflected on, well, what hasn't been working and why hasn't it been working? There have been a few main factors. One is that we've increased quote unquote competition. I don't think of it as competition. These are the instructors that we've trained, and we've trained them because we want to build capacity in the country. What's happened, which is amazing, is that some of these instructors have really like flown in their own direction and have created their own brands or their own businesses around teaching holistic self-defense, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen. However, I didn't quite think through what that would mean for Mujeres Fuertes as a business, because it means that rather than being sort of the only operator offering this approach to self-defense and empowerment, we're now one of more than a dozen around the country. And I think part of the challenges we're seeing is the result of that. We've been seeing a lot of changes. We do a lot of our marketing and outreach through social media, and the algorithms, anyone who works in marketing knows, are constantly changing. And that's another challenge that we are constantly trying to innovate to get around. But it is a very different reality in digital marketing today than it was even 3 years ago when we started to really grow as an organization. And we're still figuring out how to sort of rise above that. Things move really slowly. We have contracts that have been in process literally for the last year. And I think some others maybe even longer than that. And it can be really frustrating. Some seeds just take a really long time to sprout. But that means that we do have a lot of sort of things pending that are just taking much, much longer than expected to come to fruition, which when you're a small organization with very limited funding, that's actually like, that can be a monumental challenge if those contracts and those potential partnerships don't move forward. This is another challenge, and this is since always, is that there's often a big gap in this field of self-defense and empowerment work between interest and actually conversion to a sale or participation. We've seen that with sort of bigger scale institutional clients and also individual clients where people are really interested in this. They think it's really important. They want to participate. And then they just don't take the step to invest their time, invest their money, invest their company's money in setting up a workshop or coming into a workshop. that's something I think we've seen since the very beginning of this project, and I expect it will always be a challenge in what we do. Our new instructors, I think their needs have been a little bit different than I anticipated. And so we're still, and this goes along with burnout, I think we're still figuring out how to fully engage a lot of the instructors that we've trained in the last 2 years and finish the mentorship process with them and have them finish their practice hours so that they can become fully incorporated into the project and like join the team as instructors. It doesn't help that, as I said, things move slowly and there's a big gap from interest to conversions to sales, because a lot of our new instructors are feeling that same frustration that they're having a hard time getting participants into their workshops, even to complete their practice hours. And then in full transparency, I think as a founder and as a leader, I've been walking the edge of burnout for the last few months, and I am trying to be very cautious of managing my own energy so that I can continue to sort of guide this project forward in a sustainable way, in a way that energizes me and doesn't just like demand time and energy. And that's something that I'm still figuring out. So these are the questions, and as I said, I want to open up for discussion when I'm done presenting. So I just would ask you to sort of hold these questions with me, and if you have any reflections, to share them at the end. But that I'm asking, as I said, what can we learn from failure? What lessons can we take away? How can we allow that information to guide our course and sort of shift or refocus our energy? And then the other really interesting question for me right now is, how can we work in collaboration with community rather than in tension with it? Something that I've thought a lot about these last months, as I've seen that like things are not quite developing the way I think they are, is that we often, well, projects have a life of their own, creative work has a life of its own, and communities have a life of their own. And often what we sort of vision for a project or for a community ends up not quite aligning with what that project wants for itself. And so then this question, and this is one of the things I'm really interested in figuring out or continuing to explore over the next months with the team, with our community, with all of you who have been mentors throughout the process, is how can we work with community rather than like fighting against these challenges that we're coming up against? There will always be challenges. I'm not saying that there's a magic formula where like, we cracked the code and now everything is easy. But I think this level of sort of challenge, it is a signal that we're not quite in alignment in some way. And so one of the things that I'm questioning, as I mentioned, we set ourselves up in a time where we're sort of the only service provider for holistic self-defense in the country. And now we've trained up capacity, and now there's over a dozen people actively teaching around Costa Rica, and there's going to be more after our next training next month. Maybe my original vision for this organization, this project, isn't actually what this community of instructors needs from us. Maybe they need us to be like a movement and an educator and a source of resources, but maybe they don't actually need us to be a business. So I'm very open to just completely reconsidering what our role is in the ecosystem. And I'm curious to see where we're going, because it's probably not where I thought. As I said, when I talk about failure, I'm talking about a specific piece of our goals and our theory of change and how I was hoping to become more self-sustaining in the last 6-9 months. That doesn't mean that we don't have a lot to celebrate. We've had a lot of successes. We've had several of our instructors are located in one area of Costa Rica in the South Pacific region. They've formed like a regional collective of holistic self-defense instructors, which is amazing. They ran their own festival earlier this year. They're supporting one another. They're working together and collaborating on a lot of workshops and events. Across our network of instructors that we've trained, just this year, There have been 36 workshops and at least 263 participants who have received empowerment or holistic self-defense education. That's probably not a complete number. We weren't able to get answers from all of our instructors, so it might be a little bit higher, and that's also not including the workshops that I've taught. So that's just in our network of instructors that have been trained in the last 2 years. That's a pretty big number, and like, I'm celebrating that. We're going to have our third teacher training next month in August. We have 8 participants, and a couple of them are actually coming in from other countries. So it's the first time that we'll have a more international cohort. They'll still be trained in Spanish. Last month, I drove from Seattle to Los Angeles, and I presented the Mujeres Fuertes documentary 4 or 5 times. I gave 4 or 5 workshops. I was able to connect with a lot of colleagues that I never met in person before, like Tasha, who's on this call. We presented our documentary. The finale was a presentation in Los Angeles with Peace Over Violence, which is one of the oldest self-defense and violence prevention organizations in the US. It re-energized me a lot to be on the ground with so many colleagues and organizations doing aligned work. And it just was a necessary reminder that that global community that I'm a part of, that we're a part of, isn't just a concept in the abstract, that it's a real network of human beings and that they're really fun to be around. I think when everything is mediated by a screen, it's easy to sort of lose track of what that connection actually feels like and what it actually means to be a network and be a community. We just received a very generous anonymous donation, which will allow us to continue operating at least through the end of this year. So when I initially sent out the invitation for this call, we weren't really sure it was going to happen after July. Now we will be able to, keep the metaphorical lights on at least through the end of this year and take the time that we need to have some of these conversations and do some of this restructuring and revisioning. And this past weekend, I just came back from a startup accelerator in Miami, and I'll share more about it in a moment, but we will be signing a distribution deal with Selena, which is a global hotel chain, to eventually implement our trainings in every one of their locations around the world. That's over 100 locations. That is a multi-year plan. We'll be starting with a pilot program with a few select locations in Costa Rica. And we'll be launching a sort of global arm of the Mujeres Fuertes brand called Choose, which will be directed at a global audience. It's a big and new and overwhelming project, and I'm still ironing out the details, but it is a huge opportunity for us here in Costa Rica to give our instructors more opportunities to reach new audiences. And then it's a big opportunity for the empowerment self-defense movement to just enter into some new and really exciting partnerships. So I'm tired of hearing me talk, so I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful team, and I've asked them to prepare just like a short reflection on, from their role within the organization and their perspective, what they think has been working well and where we can maybe improve in these next months. And Mile, you look really ready, so do you want to start?
I'm super not ready. I'm super jet lagged and slightly sick, but we're here. And first and foremost, thank you to everyone who has supported this project as a donor or energetically or in whatever form or capacity. I think I can speak for all of us, but also for myself. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for keeping this going. And my role in this business community, wonderful women weaving together project it has kind of shifted. At the beginning, it was more social media. It's still social media, but I think together with Toby, we're trying to figure out how exactly that is going to look. And it pretty much changes as often as the algorithm likes to change, which is really often, as I think many of you know if you've had experience with Instagram. So in the past year, what has changed the most is mainly like focusing our social media into connecting with our audience more than trying to sell them a product or sell them a workshop or fancy images or things of what we're doing. It's more kind of like sharing what we're doing and trying to take the audience along with us. And yeah, just doing as many relatable posts as possible to try to connect with what women and peoples here go through with gender violence, and just trying to say like, hey, like we really try to support and understand the problem, and we do have tools available, but we're also more here to connect and raise the voice and yeah, and make people feel seen and heard through Instagram. That's kind of my vision for where we're going with this. It has been challenging in many ways because sometimes you put in a lot of effort in a post or a creation or caption or whatever, and Instagram gods have their own minds. But we're still trying, and we've also done a lot of restructuring, which I'm really proud of, because I think it's a lot about going with the flow and not resisting when something's not working, rather trying to figure out what does work and flow in that direction. So I think I at least am happy to keep doing that. Yeah, and I'll pass the microphone on to Blue, who also looks ready.
Hola, hello. Bueno, I'm Blue. Nice to meet you. I think we saw each other, some of you, before. I also wanted to say thank you. I think that all these opportunities that we've had to try and move to a different path, and all this flow that Mile was talking about, it's a lot because of you and your support. And I feel that there are many things that do work, like the organization between us, how we've been working with the communication, deciding the structures, the inner structures of the company, and how we've been designing this. And like Toby said, we're just analyzing what's going to happen next. And I also feel that we're very open to see where this is going to take us. But one thing that I really like about this project, is that we feel some sort of purpose, and this is why we feel motivated to continue. I feel that we've been through a lot of different stages, and we've tried a lot of things, and we still have a lot of creativity inside to make it work. And a lot of the things that well, Toby was mentioning that there's a lot of interest, and there's this gap between making it reality. And really, all of the, because I have been the one that's been dealing with all these people, it's all been super circumstantial, and things that sometimes feel like they're not going to work out, they end up working out, and the other way around. It's not all negative. It's just it's that we need to open more our eyes. And I'm very happy, because one of these contracts that kind of fell down last month, turns out that they were also experimenting, with the dates and ideas that they had. So we just rescheduled, and this is with a university, and we're very happy to go and give a couple of workshops. And there are many things, not only us, we are trying to organize the puzzle, but everybody else is trying to organize their puzzles. So I feel that we just need to reinvent, like we were sharing, and stay open, because I feel that in Latin American countries, bureaucracy tends to be really slow. So I feel super positive that all these almost yeses are still cooking, They're still like boiling there, and at some point they're going to be ready, and we are going to be ready. And that's what makes me feel super hopeful, that I feel that we are super ready. We have been modifying our products in different ways, trying to make it all, to make some of them more specialized. We designed a program for gyms. We're like trying to try new things. So I feel that I feel super. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in Spanish today, so this is a bit difficult. But I feel curious to what's going to happen this next, the second semester of the year. I feel that a lot of these seeds we planted are going to, how do you say when it comes out of the earth? El brote. Sprouts are going to sprout. And I feel that we're learning where to put the energy, and we're hopeful, and not hopeful, it's not what I wanted to say. We're like active there, just about to, So yeah, I feel super motivated to continue, because there are people or women who want to learn this. There's movement. There is people who believe in the project from many different places, like all of you. And I feel that we need to continue, and I'm sure that we will be harvesting really soon. I feel that we're going on a great path, and I really like this new shift of connecting with the people, and I feel that this is something that is going to help, and I'm open to keep trying. So yeah, thank you very much, and I will pass the palabra to Io.
Hi, everyone. Just so you know, I'm in Lake Atitlan, Guatemala, and internet connection is not very good sometimes. So if I just froze or whatever, please let me know. Second of all, I'm very thankful also for everyone that has collaborated in any way, whether by being allies or donors or supporting us in whatever form they can. That has been our fuel. And yeah, as well as Mila and Blue, I'm really grateful for our team. And I mean, Toby knows that I've known Toby for like 3 or 4 years, and we've been friends and colleagues or whatever. But we've been working together in this thing, and we've grown so much as a team. I feel like the workflow has been very nice. Like whether a new idea or project inside the organization comes up, we already know what to do, or who takes it, or who takes the lead, or who to work with, and whatever. So I feel like we've set the ground very beautifully in this initiative that we've had. My dream will be, as Toby was mentioning, that a lot of the instructors will collaborate with us. And since we have built this system, we could help them to spread the methodology or whatever. But they're doing it on their own, which is not bad. I mean, it's also helping communities and whatever. But we need to restructure and rethink what we're doing right now. And well, for me, since I'm far away and I don't collaborate as much as Mile and Blue, I think they have like the heavy load sometimes. I do whatever I can with the time that I have, but much as I can in my side is to spread the word. I mean, there's a script when people ask me, "What do you do for a living?" And the first thing is like, "Well, I collaborate with that empowerment and self-defense for women in Costa Rica." And there comes the conversation about what is that? I mean, not a lot of people know about this. So little by little, I know that people will get to know how important this is, and not as just in a physical kind of martial arts kind of thing, but it's more deeper than that. So all this outreach work that we did, the million emails, 1,000 emails that we sent, as I think it's just for nothing, that those are seeds, and we just have to be a little more patient and wait for them to grow. And I'm really hopeful. I am hopeful and active, as Blue said, for this movement. So yeah, again, thank you, and I'm really happy to be here and to see people getting connected to this, and waiting to hear any other reflections that you may have.
Gracias, equipo. Les quiero. So just to recap, we have nearly come to 50% of our original funding goal. And because we've been very careful about our use of resources, that's actually going to get us much further than a first year. In total, that will probably cover close to maybe not quite a year and a half, but longer than initially expected. And I do, as we've been sharing, in the next 6 months that we know we have a runway for, we do expect to be like really continuing to analyze what's working, what isn't working, exploring, with a lot of curiosity, other possibilities and other paths for the organization. We'll also be looking for local grants, which is something that's sort of been on the back burner, but potentially could bring us farther than the fundraising that I've been doing. We're going to be aggressive, or I prefer Blue and Dario's word, active, in following up on all possible leads and continuing to keep those leads hot. We'll be continuing to support our instructors and training our next cohort and mentoring them over the next year. And as I mentioned, on sort of in parallel or in tandem, I will be developing Choose, which is an internationally focused self-defense booking platform and community that will be piloting in Costa Rica with the instructors we've already trained. Basically, the mission of Choose is to empowerment self-defense instructors to make a living doing what they love and what they care about. That is one of really the major gaps that I and so many of my colleagues have identified. Like, we are all so passionate and so driven to do this work. We see the impact that it has. We see the need and the desire that communities have for it. And yet there is generally a big struggle to consistently make a living doing just that. And that's, I think, really become one of my missions, is to prove that it's possible. Because there aren't many, there are a couple examples, and they're really big inspirations of people who have turned it into not just something that's funded by an organization or an institution, but really a functional business. And I would love to prove that that is possible for more people in our field through Mujeres Fuertes, and now through Choose. As I mentioned, we'll be partnering with Selena, which is a global hotel chain, offering classes for guests and community, and eventually rolling out our teacher trainings at other locations, either ourselves or with partner organizations, and also working with them on their staff trainings. There's a lot more happening with that. This call is about Mujeres Fuertes, so I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it's exciting, it's new. I want you to know that it's happening, and that it will be rolling out over the next many months. So it's in the works. And I think this will be a collective process of figuring out where we go from here. And I'm would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your insight, your questions. I want to close as I began by saying thank you to everyone who has supported us, who has helped us to come so far and to grow so much in this organization. A big thank you to our donors, to our mentors, to our allies, to our friends. If we have gotten this far, it is thanks to you and your support. So thank you. And I will open it up to questions and comments. Don't all ask at once. Yeah, Tasha.
Get the ball rolling for you. Well, first, it was awesome finally teach with you and meet you in person. Geeked out about that.
So cool.
Did my little Snoopy happy dance. Yeah, so that was lots of fun, and it's exciting to team teach with different organizations. You know, you build your own style. I've been building mine for over, like the last 20 years, and it's nice to be able to connect with different people who have a very holistic style of teaching. So I'm excited to see the direction that all of this takes. I have been on the sidelines rooting all of you on. I would love to be a donor. We did have our fire in Lahaina, so that was a challenging setback. But it also has been a really great motivator. I think that as a business owner, I am just so proud of my business. I think that I'm so proud of, the progress that I've seen just from afar with all of the work that you're doing, because I know it's really hard, and you're doing it. And the social media, Melina, I was like, oh my God, yes, I get so frustrated all the time and like constantly researching. And I'm like, damn it, they did it again. They changed it again. I hate this. So yeah, like I think that it's amazing to just have a team of people who you're coming up with ideas and you're working through all of this stuff. Really excited to see the direction that it takes as you're moving forward.
Thank you, Tasha. Tasha and I co-taught in Olympia during that West Coast tour last month, and we've been colleagues and friends for years, but it was the first time that we were in the same place, and it was so cool. Question from Kim, can we speak to the certification for our instructors? Yeah, so our structure right now is we have a 6-day, very intensive in-person instructor training. After the first year, I realized I needed to warn people how intense it was, because it is like 10 days of learning every day, plus activities in the morning and evenings. And then that leads into a year of mentorship with monthly mentorship calls, either with myself or with other people in the Latin American ESD community. I feel like I get tired of being the one in that seat, and people really benefit from learning from different instructors and different perspectives and different areas of expertise. So we try to bring in a lot of other mentors as guests as much as we can. After that year of mentorship and completing their practice hours, they officially get their sort of level 1 certification with us. And then if they want to, they can continue in the pipeline. I'm sorry, the train here is so loud. We can continue with the regional ESD network to go with additional levels of training and other gatherings. We're trying to have at least a yearly gathering for instructors in Costa Rica. It didn't come together right now for August, so we'll see if we get to do it later in the year. But we're trying to, like I mentioned, some of our instructors are really active with one another, and they're doing things all the time. And there's sort of pockets and regions around the country where there are a lot of instructors, and then some are more isolated. So it's tricky to get everyone to one location. most people have other jobs, other commitments, families, all kinds of things that make it tricky to actually ever find a date that everyone can be in the same place. But I do think it's important to actually be in one location on the ground together and keep training. So we're trying to make that happen as well. But the like basic format, it's the 6-day on the ground instructor training, year of mentorship practice hours, and then they can continue with the regional network if they want to level up from there. Any other questions or comments? I like the tough questions. You know, one thing I wanted to say and I forgot as I was presenting, and I think it's pretty central to sort of where we're at in this process, is it can be tricky when you've built something or when you work so closely with something every day for years to see it clearly. And I think it takes like a lot of perspective and a lot of curiosity and humility to step back and like try and see something really clearly as it is. And so I realize that sometimes it takes time to process. So I'd also be happy to receive your comments via email or WhatsApp voice note at any point in the future. But I do really appreciate those perspectives from people who aren't so close to the project day in and day out, because I think you can sometimes see things that those of us who are in it and so close to it, we sometimes miss. And if there aren't any other questions right now, then I just want to say thank you for your time and for your interest and for your support again. It was lovely to see some of your faces and to just have your presence here. Oh, got another question. How are we collaborating with other ESD instructors and organizations in the Latin American region? So we're sort of we are part of the Latin American network of instructors, REALAC. And so our instructors, when they go through our training, they are de facto part of the regional network of instructors. And then we're trying a lot, as I mentioned, to like bring in other instructors from the region into our mentorship program. And down the road, I would love, last year in our teacher training, we brought in our assistant and mentor on the training, came in from Mexico. So I'm like trying to do more cross-pollination too and make more of that happen. Because I know for myself as an instructor, it's been so valuable to connect with this global community and actually feel the presence of that network around me. And I want our instructors to have that same experience. Down the road, I would love for them to also participate in like regional events. Those have been happening virtually. Our instructors have been participating in different online trainings and webinars, but I would love at some point for them to also have the experience of like being on the ground with people from all over the region. And it will happen. Okay, I think it is time to say goodnight. I appreciate all of you who are tuning in late, all of you who are taking time out of your evening to be here. And an extra thank you to our wonderful team who has been in it every day for this last year, like trying all of the things and giving all of their love and creativity to this project. Thank you all. Have a beautiful night. And as I said, if you
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Eva. Feel free to reach out after.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.